I got 6 o'clock. I'll call this regular meeting to order, City Council, Dalhart City Hall on June 24th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Consider the following items. Terry, you want to give the prayer?
Absolutely. Right. Father, we thank you for this rain, just blessing our community. Lord, we just ask you to bless Amanda Miller tonight. Pray for her healing and literally that we would just hear your voice and follow your will. You can bless Dalhart. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amy. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Yeah, have a approval of minutes from June 10th, 2024, regular city council member, the consent agenda, and also approve the minutes from the June 17th special council meeting. Got a time to review it? I'm sorry,
I move to approve the consent.
got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Public comment.
We do have one.
Okay.
And he did get the form filled out, but Terry just.
Okay.
So you're welcome to come up here. You want to tell him? He has 3 minutes. Or are you gonna give him longer?
See what it is.
Okay.
Good evening, council. I'm just here. My name is Ricky Rice, and I'm president of the Dalhart Softball Association. And I'm just here to petition y'all to maybe for some improvements out at the ball field across from the country club on 54. And we need some playground equipment and quite a few improvements like on the fences and stuff like that. That's it.
Appreciate get in touch with you. There's certain groups that can help you out with that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Okay. And I guess we need to open a work session for Unity. A motion,
Make a motion, we open work session for
Second.
identity.
have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
So we basically, this is a workshop. Some of you, the 3 of you have been involved, saw this earlier that, we hired Verdinity over a year ago to come in, help us with a citywide comp plan. This is one of the sessions they've come and made several workshops with us. This is just one of them. They've planned a few visits here. This just happened to be one of them. I will turn it over to them. It's a workshop. They'll walk you through some of these things. So we have with us from Verdinity, we have AJ and Maddie. They will take care of, they'll walk you through this. If you have questions, just, engage with them. That's why it's listed as a workshop. So that you have a chance to engage with them back and forth. Not just where they're giving you a report and then you just have to do those things. Okay. You have any questions before I turn over to them? Okay, are y'all ready? Right here. Okay.
While he's getting our slide deck pulled up, I'll start with just kind of laying out what we plan on doing with you all tonight. We know you've got other things on the agenda, so we'll try to move as effectively and efficiently as possible. But that said, we also know that we've got a largely new group. And so we think it's important to give you some background, kind of bring you up to speed with where we are in this process. And then we also have some specific areas that we'd like to get your input and feedback on as we move towards the completion of this plan. So we'll cover a lot of that in the presentation.
You need to speak up a little bit more.
I'm sorry.
That's not a problem. We don't have the speakers all the way around.
Okay.
We need a microphone, right?
That'd be good.
A little louder.
I've never been
Working.
told I'm too quiet, but I'll try to be a little bit louder than normal.
While he's doing that, we could go to,
You all right?
while he's doing that, we could go on to
Yeah, we could.
3 and 4.
It'll take a minute. We're gonna skip over and go to item 3. Mario, if you'll come up. Talk about your accomplishment, Fire Chief Academy.
Always have a bad hair day in this council meeting. Like George Lopez.
At least we have here.
This past year, starting last October, started with the attending the Fire Chiefs Academy. This is through the Texas Fire Chiefs Association. This is an organization known nationwide. This class that I attended had folks not only from Texas, but also from other states. There was a few from New York Fire Department, Detroit Fire Department had some there also. So it's a widely known academy. And this academy was came out at a good time. So it broke down what a person needs to know to be a fire chief. And it broke down each category for that, ISO, human resources, tactics, how to positively affect your culture and your department, things like that. And along with that, it came with research papers that started last fall, and research papers on different categories. Last fall was on mental health, and then this year, the class that we just completed was over adding staff. And we want to use real numbers and everything, and it was really interesting. So it was a research paper, justification paper, presentation that you would bring to a council, kind of like we did back in February with the fire reporting system, and then this last year's fire station bill. So I had a little bit experience with that, and so with that research paper, justification paper, that was all turned in. Passed all those. I think I had one of the highest scores in my research paper. I only had 2 points against it. And then the council, there was a mock council that we went and talked to and made this presentation to. And the only thing they told me is I made a PowerPoint, and they said I had too much going on with it, my different slides and transitions. And I was like, okay, so I went from one extreme to the other, because I sent it to begin with, and they said, you need to add more to your presentation. I went too far. So, but it was a really good class. I recommend that to anyone. They restructured this class a few years ago. The last person that graduated this year, the class that I was in, was the 400th person to graduate from that. Going back, you cannot, from experience, you cannot prepare the old cliche, prepare for succession, the next person. You can only prepare somebody to succeed. And that's what this is. And we have one of my assistant fire chiefs and one of my captains registered, and they'll start this academy in the fall also. And they'll graduate next June. So we trying to continue to grow, to help with our public safety and get smarter and learn new things and just try to keep getting better.
And you're now what?
Chief Fire Executive.
Good job.
Good job.
Can we get your,
Yes.
I'll let him go get a hat on.
Right. He just wants to look taller than me.
George Lucas, I know.
I saw you at the car show, but get up here and get a picture from the seal. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. You bet. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, ladies, I think y'all are still up.
I think it's safe to say you learned a lot about PowerPoint because now that you've been up here, our PowerPoint is working. So thank you for that. So as discussed, one of the things that we're going to do tonight is start by kind of giving you some background on the project to date. And as Joe mentioned, we've been working in Dalhart for the last year with the staff and the community. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that are key pieces to understand about what this plan is intended to do. We understand that there's a lot of changes that are taking place and there's a largely new council here. And we actually think that presents a great opportunity with the timing of the plan that we're currently doing. The time at which you're coming in is fortuitous, I think, because it allows this council to have the opportunity to be involved at the point where we're about to start developing key actions and recommendations so that you can be a big part of that and also part of the implementation of the plan. It's rare for a lot of council members that they get to see a lot of transactional and transformational things happen in their first term, but the timing of this, I think, makes that very possible. And of course, with a new city manager coming in, having a document that captures the community's vision and how the community wants to see that executed is a great help to someone that's coming into a key leadership position. So we feel this is actually a great time for us to be having this conversation. And what we want to do first is give you some orientation, and for the public too that's watching and is in attendance tonight, just some background about what a comprehensive plan is and what it's intended to be. Really, this is a basis and a rationale for decision making. And of course, this group, along with the other boards and commissions that assist you in making decisions in the community of Dalhart, really have a tough job ahead of you. And so having something like this that provides you some guidance is always really important. This kind of plan also provides considerations for you to take through the process of making policy, changing policy, and the budgeting process, which it sounds like you'll all be embarking on together here very quickly. It also is intended to be comprehensive in nature, thus its name. So it's comprehensive in a few ways. One of the main ways that it is comprehensive is it looks at the entire city, everything within your city limits. It's also comprehensive because it looks at the city from many different vantage points. So we'll be talking about what's included in the scope for this particular plan in terms of those different topics. One of the other ways that's really important is because it really captures the vision, as I've already alluded to, of what the community wishes to achieve and outlines how to get there. And that last part's really important. It's easy in communities to vision and talk about what could be, but then having a plan that actually gets you there is something that is really critical and is often where people get frustrated. So this plan is intended to do that. Alignment and continuity is important. There's always transitions in government because you have staff folks that come and go over time. You've got board and commission members. You've got council members that come and go over time. But having a North Star, so to speak, that keeps everybody moving in the same direction, even throughout those times of transition, is really important. We recommend that you review this on an annual basis. That's important to make sure that it still reflects the changing conditions in the community and what you need it to do, most importantly. The comprehensive planning process is something that's laid out in the state of Texas through the local government code, which I'm sure you're all somewhat familiar with, being the statutory language that guides communities. Section 213 talks about comprehensive plans specifically and says, what are these things? They're intended to focus on land use. They can also have elements that look at transportation. There are other areas a city can prescribe to look at in their comprehensive plans, but those are the basic areas. And the intention of the comprehensive plan in state law is to coordinate and guide land use decisions. That can be anything from new development of previously vacant land to redevelopment of areas that are changing over time. And then Section 211 of the state statute requires that cities make their zoning decisions in accordance with their comprehensive plan. So that's why land use is so important in these particular plans. Those decisions can be widespread in nature. If you're adopting a new zoning ordinance, for example, the requirement is that you do it in accordance with your comprehensive plan. Or on the other end of that spectrum, if you're considering a rezoning of a specific property, also to making sure that that's done in accordance with this plan. So this plan is a very important piece. And, you know, the natural question I think people have about it is, well, how do we use it? The future land use component of this plan really provides an organized approach to these conversations that you have. It expresses the value and visions of the community that can be part of every discussion that you have. Obviously, you can't please everyone in a community ever, but it's important that people understand how decisions are made and what goes into those decisions. And a comprehensive plan expresses a great deal of this. It asks guiding questions that you can use in your considerations. And most importantly, it has an implementation component that provides accountability. It lays out the work plan for the community. It outlines the recommendations that are needed to achieve that vision and the order in which that those should take place. So it really is a pretty cohesive document that can guide your day-to-day work as well as some of your long-range work. So the timeline to date, just to bring you up to speed, on this project started, again, just a year ago. And there are 5 phases, as you can see from the graphic here. Phases 1 and 2 have been completed. So starting back in phase 1, the focus of that phase was really to assess the community, to gather facts, to pull together data that was available and get a sense of the community and the challenges there. The city of Dalhart was very helpful in this effort. The staff has been very involved. They didn't have a great deal of data, which is common when you're working with smaller communities, but we are going to be talking here in a little bit about some of the maps that we'll be providing in this plan that provide a baseline of data for the city that they can continue to build on over time. So you're starting to accumulate and build data that can help guide you in your decisions. And so you all as council members will probably have ideas as you continue through your term about types of data that would be available and would be necessary for you to make some of the decisions that you find are important to make. So that was the kickoff of the project. There was a survey that was done, and in a minute, we'll talk about all of the different engagement things that have happened to date. But the first survey in phase 1 is really intended to set a baseline for the community. And it's something that's a product that you'll be left with at the end of this process that you can use as you see fit. You can provide that survey to the community on an annual or maybe semi-annual basis. And it gives you some key feedback on how the community is performing in different areas of what people expect from their community. So we started with that baseline. In the second phase, we really started then exploring the issues with the community, identifying what that vision is for Dalhart. What are the values that are important to people here? What are the challenges that they observe and why are those challenges in place? Really understanding those things. We also, we'll get into this in a moment too, but we also completed a land use fiscal analysis as a piece of this that provides some key insights into how your development patterns here in Dalhart are or are not penciling out, how they can be made more productive, that sort of thing. We're currently in phase 3 of the process. And in this phase, we have done a great deal of working with the data that's been collected. We also have done a great deal of engagement, and we are now in the process of compiling all of that engagement. And we'll give you some sneak peeks into what we've heard tonight. And this trip actually wraps up phase 3. So starting next week, we'll be moving into the 4th phase of this project. And the 4th phase and 5th phases are obviously really important because they're at the end, so they're leading towards the finish line of the project. but they're also the key phases that the council is really involved in. And so you all are going to be integral to these phases as we identify what the priorities are, what the different areas of focus should be, and how those things should be achieved. And you'll be primarily involved, of course, through staff. But in that review process, we'll be putting together a draft of the document that will be sent over for review by all of you. You can share it with whomever you like in the community to get feedback on that. And of course, being the council and being a home rule city, you are the ultimate adopters of this project and this plan. So you'll also be, of course, involved in phase 5 when we come back to present that final plan to you for consideration. So we understand that at this point, you've gotten a great deal of information provided to you, and it's more than we can cover tonight, but the staff, we have left them with everything that we've done throughout this process. So please know that they are a resource for you and they can provide you with anything that we have produced to date. We do want to take a minute and talk a little bit about the land use fiscal analysis. I mentioned this just a moment ago. So at a high level, what was involved in that analysis? We really took a look, first of all, at the structure of your city's budget, the revenues, the costs, and the fiscal performance of the development patterns that you have in the community. We've been able to identify areas that are particularly performing well so that we can understand the characteristics of those and hopefully help you to replicate them in the future. Of course, by productive, we mean areas that are not only producing property tax collections, which most of your properties already are, but that you're actually getting a surplus from those property tax collections. We also looked at and compared the growth of Dalhart over time in terms of population with the growth of Dalhart over time in terms of its land area to understand kind of the background there. For example, since about the year 2000, for Dalhart, the service area or the area that you're committed to serving through infrastructure that's part of your city limits has grown by about 28%, but your population has only grown by about 16%. So the growth of the footprint has grown faster than the actual population itself. And so you've got a great deal of land available to you that certainly is going to be an important topic as you move forward. We've also looked at areas that are developed versus areas that are undeveloped in the community. And of your current city limits, only about 58% of that land is currently developed. So you, again, still have room to grow. You still have areas that are served, but not necessarily producing at their highest ability, which is an opportunity, frankly, for additional development to occur. We also will provide you with some analysis in the plan of things like street replacement cost liabilities, kind of what you're aiming for there to be able to generate that type of revenue. And again, to lay out examples of things that are performing particularly well for the city so that you can look at things like your zoning and your subdivision requirements and regulations, your incentive policies, various policies that are related to development to see how you might be able to produce more of that well-performing development. So that's a key piece of this overall comprehensive plan. When we started this process, that's, that kind of analysis is something that we do. It's not something you often see with comprehensive plans, but we find that with a lot of the communities that we work with a lot of rural communities, a lot of smaller communities. We also likewise have worked with some suburban communities. It's important for them to be able to do the math and understand what the bottom line is. People in these communities are usually very common sense and they want to know what the bottom line is. So we're going to provide some elements there in terms of those actual numbers. There are also some map components that will be included in the plan that I mentioned a moment ago, and I'll just briefly run through those. The fiscal analysis that we just talked about, there will also be a couple of different maps that we'll produce that become part of the plan that show you parcel by parcel, citywide, the productivity of your property tax revenue patterns. The topic of tonight, the work in the workshop really that we'll get to here in just a bit, is really talking about the future land use map. In our contract, that was really the focus of this trip. So last night, At the engagement event, that's largely what the focus was on with the community. And so the future land use map is really important because it designates the intention for land as it transitions over time in your community, and it reflects what your community has said that they need and want. It is different from your zoning map. These two things should work together, but they are not one and the same. So while your zoning map is tied to regulations and the zoning district applied to every property tells you what you can and can't do with it, the future land use map is more of a visual representation of community feedback. And the idea is that you want to try to maintain consistency through those and that it guides, as I mentioned in state law, your zoning decisions. It also casts the vision for the things that you want and need with land use, and it's intended to inform your decisions about zoning. So we can talk a little bit later about how that might be used in practice with a couple of examples. There's also a downtown map that was requested to be made as part of the contract. There wasn't something currently that illustrated a boundary of downtown Dalhart. So we've had a series of meetings with different people that have a focus on downtown and have a lot of knowledge about downtown. And so this map outlines that boundary. It also includes areas of focus because it is very difficult to start with a large area and completely renovate that and update that over time, rather than having just key areas of focus. And it also identifies undeveloped lots, which could be opportunities. There's also an infrastructure map piece of this. And the idea with that map is that it identifies areas of focus for your improvements and upgrades to infrastructure. Dalhart has invested quite a bit in your infrastructure inventory, and there's a lot of value there, both short and long term. And so maintaining that and using that and leveraging it to its fullest potential is something that the plan will focus on. The city also asked for a housing map, and so the housing map that will be included outlines the different types of housing that are available in Dalhart and where that's located, and the staff helped us put that together. So the idea is that you have a visual representation of where the housing currently is in Dalhart, the types of housing that are available, and you can also understand what maybe isn't available or where it's not available. So it's a starting point to, again, building a way that Dalhart can begin collecting and maintaining data that's really helpful. And then the last map is a thoroughfare map, which, as it sounds, illustrates your roadway network. As we've just discussed, you have a very large footprint. And so from both the fiscal analysis findings and just from a pragmatic angle, we recommend a focus and emphasis on maintenance more than building new roads and streets at this point, and making sure that the relationship between the productivity, that kind of rate of return, and the infrastructure that you have in place is captured. Other elements that will be in this final document that are not graphic include the vision. Again, we've already talked about this a little bit. The Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee drafted an initial statement, and the community has weighed in on that statement over time. There'll be kind of an educational component that explains the economics of land use and how those two things, that kind of stewardship and fiscal sustainability, rate of return, and land use work together, how they can complement and enhance one another. The takeaways from your specific fiscal analysis will be part of the plan. We'll also give you some observations about your land use patterns. What are implications for the future? What are ways that you can focus on some of the big issues that we've been hearing, which we'll sum up here in a moment. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, is the strategy of how do you implement this thing? We've got it in place. We've got it adopted. What do we do next? Who's responsible for what, and in what order does it occur? So that would be the final element of that plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Maddie, and she's going to talk through not only the engagement that we've done to date, but she's going to start to get into some of the future land use elements that we'd really like your feedback on tonight as well.
So we've had a few touch points with the community throughout this process. Like AJ was talking about, we had our first trip to Dalhart back in August of last year. During that time, we had a community open house, some introductory meetings with staff, and as well as some introductory meeting with CPAC. We also had our first survey during that time. So you can see that, we've had quite a few surveys throughout the process. The most recent ones were the local business owners and manager survey, as well as the community vision and value survey. And it was that and CPAC meeting number 1, where we went over visioning that actually created the vision statement that we'll go over in just a minute. Okay, and this is just a list of our CPAC members. And this is the vision statement. So it was created and drafted by CPAC in that first virtual workshop that we did. And then the vision statement was actually given to the community in the community vision and value survey, where they were asked to just give us some feedback, the things that they liked and things like that. The different things that we heard throughout this process with having a community look at it. It actually enforced the vision statement, and therefore we actually didn't end up making any modifications from what CPAC had drafted. And the community really emphasized that some of the most important things to them were actually the beautification of Dalhart and then the economic development opportunities. And so that's what they liked the most about the vision statement. That's a little easy to read. It looks a little small from up here. So just the major feedback themes that we've had to date. It's probably not any new news for y'all. I'm sure that this is stuff that y'all have been hearing for quite a while, but the community needs more housing, and it's not just single family housing. It's things like multifamily as well. There's also a lot of opportunity for getting new jobs and more employees. Something that we hear a lot is that there needs to be more employees in the city, but something that they're having issues with is obviously housing. And it kind of gets into a chicken and the egg conversation there. The community also wants more activities in Dalhart. That means just more entertainment, restaurants, even things like grocery stores and places for families and young adults to go to. The community wants to also capture tourism dollars. They see it as a great opportunity. There's so many people going through and going to different states and different areas within the region, and they're coming through Dalhart. And downtown really has an opportunity to be revitalized and be that place that really draws people in. The community also wants to preserve Dalhart's heritage. The agricultural and rural heritage that Dalhart has is very important to them, but they also see that economic growth and the opportunity to provide more diverse businesses and industries is also really important. And then the community also believes that Dalhart can become a more attractive place to live. This is kind of goes back into the beautification thing that we were talking about, but they would like to see better upkeep of the city's appearance, including improved code enforcement and also beautification projects. So I'll pause right here. Is there any questions that y'all have about any of the previous materials that we went over before we go into the future land use map? Okay. So really quick, just before we get into this, we're going to cover a lot of ground tonight. And I just do really want to emphasize that we've left this print with staff. It's here tonight, but we're also they're going to have it. And so we want obviously any feedback that you have tonight, but if you do need a little extra time to review, please take the time to do so and get your comments back to through staff and to Joe. If possible, it'd be great to have it no later than Friday, July 12th. And we want absolutely any feedback that you have tonight. And so just really quickly, I'll go through this. AJ touched on a lot of this already, but I think it's really important to emphasize that the future land use map is really a tool that outlines the different areas within the city and how they're intended to develop and grow over time. It's not something that's going to happen immediately, but as those opportunities come in, this is kind of a guide for going in that vision that the community really expressed. It can be updated and amended just to stay relevant over time as well. And it was developed with extensive study and discussions with staff, officials, and the community. For residents, it's a really nice tool because it provides a clear vision of the city's future growth. It shows where different land uses will be located over the next 7 to 10 years, which is about the lifespan of the comprehensive plan. For officials, it's really a guide that makes zoning and policy decisions a little bit easier because you do have the future land use map to compare it to, and it also is in accordance with the vision of the community. This also helps residents and leaders ensure that future growth really does align with communities' needs. And paired with the comprehensive plan text, it is really a clear path forward that can be followed over time. Okay. So next we're going to go over some of the categories. Staff also has prints of these on large format. Those are also available for review if you need it. I just really want to go over a couple of things before we really get into it. But the approach to creating the future land use categories was directly influenced by the community feedback that we received. So we heard the things that the community wants and the things that the community needs. And so it's really, they serve more as priorities, not necessarily designating strict uses within certain areas, but prioritizing what the community wants to see in those areas. And what you'll see on these slides are, there's some example images from Dalhart, and then we also have some illustrative examples that are from other cities. And the illustrative examples are really just conceptual, and they're intended to give maybe more ideas than rather be exact images of what should be built there. But this is the agri-rural category. So what it's intended to do is really focus on preserving a lot of the agricultural area and some of the like larger lots and houses that are already in Dalhart. So things that you could expect to see in here would be like farming, agricultural tourism, some like low density residential, so acre to multi-acre lots. And also a very important part of this is preserving the floodplain. There is floodplain in Dalhart. And it's really important to preserve those natural areas for the fact of, you know, drainage and just managing some of the natural ecosystem and everything that's out here. Oh, I think it's lagging behind just a little bit. Okay, so our next one is going to be the traditional neighborhood. This one is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It is aiming to create a vibrant neighborhood, kind of reminiscent of your pre-World War II era communities. Very similar to the areas that you see around downtown where you have really diverse housing types. Could expect to see just different types of housing, even some neighborhood scale businesses like coffee shops, like who wouldn't want that in their neighborhood? And then also community gathering places and parks and open space and areas that are really just activated for the community and places that they can go to. And then this one has a very literal name because it is a very kind of like a buffer zone between some of the higher intensity areas that we're talking about and the lower intensity areas like agri-rural and traditional neighborhood. So it's intended to be an area that you would see like in between the different uses and everything, but you would expect to see apartments, some retail development in these areas, townhomes, and pretty much all of the different types of residential uses that you would also see in the traditional neighborhood, but it works really to bridge the levels of intensity between the development types. So you wouldn't have, you know, a retail strip center next to a single family house. So this would be kind of like that buffer zone. Gonna go. Okay. Did you have to click that over? Okay. I gotcha. So downtown Dalhart. So the big thing about this is preserve. We want to keep downtown Dalhart's unique just atmosphere and the unique area that it is and all of the amazing historical buildings that they have and everything down there. But it's important that as redevelopment occurs, to focus on things like walkability and beautification. That's something that we've heard from a lot of the community feedback that we've received. Things that you could expect to see are, you know, some ground floor commercial and then apartments above where it makes sense. The idea is really just to focus on making downtown lively and vibrant and to attract everyone to this area and show them how cool it is. And not just the people who live in Dalhart, but those who are also passing through. This is a really cool place to stop and we want people to see that. And then our gateways. So these are going to be very similar to the next land use category that I'm going to show you as well. But the idea for these is not to be just focused strictly on land use, but also fixtures and branding. As growth and development occurs in Dalhart and everything, we really want to make it apparent that you're entering Dalhart. You're entering a really awesome place to stop. And that it is a really special place. And so there's a really cool opportunity to do this with unique branding and different fixtures that you can introduce into the city as you're coming in. And so it's intended to kind of enhance the highway corridor, which is the next one that we're going to talk about, and kind of signal a shift from the higher development density. And it also, with this, would be aimed towards kind of slowing down traffic and getting them to really notice what's around them. And then this last one. This is the highway corridor. This one is very focused on auto-oriented commercial. So this is the kind of stuff that you would see along your main corridors. It is retail development. You would expect to see just different restaurants, stores, and different attractions. And it also aims to enhance like the livability of the area too by offering a variety of amenities. So not just, retail and commercial development, but things within walking distance. So if you're stopping somewhere, you can maybe hit, 2 or 3 of these different places within a short distance and not have to actually get in your car for every single one, but be able to walk. And then this is the draft future land use map, which is also right here. And each of those colors represents one of the categories that we just went over. So this map, like AJ was talking about in conjunction with the zoning map, when you are looking at a zoning change request, you're looking for consistency in the places that the community wants to see, the different types of things that they want to see in those places and the allowances that is actually put in place by the zoning. So the actual regulatory part of it. And then we did have a community engagement event last night where people had the opportunity to go over this. We had some really proactive and engaged participants. We received some very specific feedback and recommendations on land use and housing. And then the feedback that we got from last night did confirm some of the themes that we went over, just some of the common feedback items and everything relating to community concerns and priorities. Okay. And so I can pause there if we, or do you want to go straight to? See. Okay, is there any questions relating to the future land use?
I think so.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, well then we'll talk briefly about the next steps in this process. Thank you. So we do have many upcoming dates and things that are happening here on the slide. And of course, this presentation will be available to all of you as well. In August, we have our next virtual workshop with the advisory committee to really talk about plan implementation. So as I mentioned at the outset of the presentation, this is where we really start taking the ideas and the desires that the community has and then start grounding them in actions that can be taken and recommendations that can be made so that they are tangible things that can be executed by you, your staff, and the different boards and commissions with the assistance of the community and their participation. So that'll be happening in August. And then in September, you'll be seeing the first draft of this document. It'll have all of the elements that I mentioned at the beginning, the different mapping components, the different text components. You'll see that in one package that will be, of course, presented to the staff, and then the staff will coordinate with you to make sure that you all have the opportunity to review and make comments and suggestions on that draft. They'll compile those comments and provide those back to us, and we will then produce a second draft that incorporates those comments and get that prepared for the ultimate adoption schedule as outlined in the contract, which would wrap up in January of 2025, at which time we'll have someone back here that will be presenting this to you at a meeting just like this. And so those are kind of the upcoming dates, the next things that are on the agenda. Again, this has been a lengthy process to date. And we're really kind of at the halfway mark of getting it to completion. So we're very excited to get to work with all of you. We got some great insights from people that attended last night, and frankly, every event, survey, workshop, everything that we've done to date, you have a community that is very, very supportive of the future of Dalhart. They have a lot of ideas about what that can be and how to get there. So it's really been a pleasure to work with a community that is that engaged, and to work with a staff that's been as supportive as they have been through the process. So we look forward to also working with you to complete this project and the contract. And with that, we've taken up a lot of your time, so we'll wrap it up and be happy to take any last questions that you might have before you move on with your agenda. So thank you so much.
For any of you that want to, there's actually the comprehensive plan that was done in 1984 that we've worked on for years. And a lot of it's still not completed, so we still have it for documentation that we can review as well to help these ladies along as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. In fact, as you're looking through the draft, if you see things in it that you think we'd really like to carry these things over from the plan that you just referred to, we'd be happy to incorporate that. So thank you for that opportunity.
And we plan on giving you some information for each of you to look at. I know it's hard when you're going through a presentation, so we're going to give you some paper copies to go look at and read it. It's going across the board. Okay.
Thank you all for what you've done.
Thank you all. We understand it's probably, you're drinking water through the fire hose right now and you've got so many demands for your time. So thank you for giving us just a little bit of it so we could do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as she told you, this has been going for a while. We do have some, a little packet to give you that we kind of narrowed down to kind of give you some highlights. Most of you should under, what's the little computer place we put all our stuff? Dropbox. If you look in Dropbox, you should have a file that says comp plan deliverables. But she realized, like, we printed it out and it's that thick. Because that shows how much they've given us over time. Some of it is well worth going over. Some of it, you can get bogged down. Because we gave you the results of the surveys. We gave you all their stuff, but that was transparency that you wanted to see it. We do have a pack we'll give you this evening that's kind of like, we narrowed it down to give you the high points so that you can help you so you're not off in the other world. This is something that, we've worked on. It's like when we've done it, every time we've engaged with the community, our community wants to see us continue with this, figure out where we want to go and so forth. Do you have any other questions or anything? Concerns?
And like I say, you can go contact either Joe or myself and we'll get with AJ and get you answers or to questions. So we're, come through us and we'll try to get you answers on a very quick basis.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So if anything we can do, just let me know. All right.
And I guess we need to have a close. And we have a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Have a motion?
Second it.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Okay. Since we moved that, we got item 4 is recognition of service for city employees. I guess we got 2 that aren't here.
We have one important one.
Dorothy,
Yeah, I'm the only one.
come on up, neighbor.
Dorothy's here.
Yeah, up there.
Come down there. So you don't have to jump up them stairs.
If I said.
Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor.
There you go.
I'm good, and you?
Good. And get your picture now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
8 years, Dorothy.
8 years.
8 years. Wow.
I don't know how many more though.
You still got more than I do.
Till they get tell me we don't need you no more.
You're gonna be around for a long time, then, Dorothy. Come on.
Good.
Item 5, a discuss and act upon the city of Dalhart's policy boards, commissions, and committee. Hope all y'all had time to review this. We reviewed this. This needs to be a living, breathing document. And we need to be able to make changes as needed. So.
You want me to show?
That's why I see here. Yeah, you wanna go ahead and highlighted several things on there for y'all to look at.
You told me you were gonna do. Let me find, can you hear me?
You need a mic.
Okay, if you go to item number, whatever it was.
Okay.
5. So this was a policy document. It's been recommended that this become a guideline document. That it just provides the guidelines for boards, committees, and commissions. The next portion is um that so, excuse me, it's not further. So number one, under guidelines, it says vacancies on boards, committees, and commissions will be brought to the city council for consideration of appointments as vacancies occur and need to be filled. So that was a change. And then number two, if they're interested in serving on a board, they will fill out, of course, the application, and we will keep it until one may come open, or we will ask to see if they want to fill a vacancy on another board. And then there is a list of all the committees, boards, and commissions. There are some that were proposed years ago that have not come to fruition, such as the housing committee. Is that correct? I think. And then the Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces Committee, that was a proposed one, and it never came to fruition as well. We're looking at, we would like to consolidate the electric board, the plumbing board. What if I'm missing one?
Basically, all of the code enforcement stuff for the most part. To give some examples, City of Canyon did this too, and it narrows it up so we don't have to have so many people serving on boards. It's hard on them to get loose from jobs, and a lot of them that they said we can consolidate, a lot of them do that, so I think it'll help us with our volunteers as well.
And I think the main goal for tonight was just to accept the document as a guideline. And then the change in council.
That way you can revisit it at any time, not twice a year. And like I said, there were several items that weren't done in it anyway. So. If y'all reviewed that, if you had any other changes that you've seen were necessary, I hope you got with Chrissy. I'll send this out to y'all what I got from the city of Canyon. They did the exact same thing with their code enforcement and their boards. Some of them are required by charter, but others, like I said, can be consolidated. And we'll review all of those. Not tonight, though.
This is an actionable item. Okay, you accept the motion? Will you entertain the motion, Mr. Mayor? James,
Waiting.
will you entertain the motion?
Yes, if y'all did, I want to make sure y'all didn't have any additions or corrections you needed to add to that. I'll entertain a motion.
Now, we can, if we come up with something, we can.
That's why I wanted a guideline. So that we can revisit this at some point. If something doesn't work, we can revisit it and change it. And
But with we can combine on the code part, like the electric board, they have 2-year term, the others are 4-year terms. The electric board, when all those boards combined, will they be a 4-year term or?
we can address that.
Okay,
I'll send you what Joe Price from City of Canyon has. I think I only sent it to Christie so far. Y'all can review it and we can look at it, because I gotta make sure none of it is in a conflict with a charter before we can adopt some of it. So, because our charter is a little different on some things, so we gotta make sure that it requires that many members, we gotta have that many members. Yeah. Okay, if there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second.
Time for the motion, Gary second. All in favor? Any opposed? Sorry about that. Nobody opposed.
Oh, man.
Okay. Yeah. Go with a further discussion here. Discuss and act upon City of Dalhart Policy Board and Commission committees that we want to talk about members, or do y'all, I know y'all have all been talking about it.
So we,
So,
so we need to skip 6, right?
yeah, and we'll be doing this in open session.
We're not having executive session?
No,
It doesn't qualify.
they're not employees. So it doesn't bother me a bit.
So I'm the one that was asking for this, and I found out that the terms on the EDC positions end in September. Well, I mean, there's September 24 endings and there's September 25 endings. So we're almost to the end of some of the terms. And what I guess I don't want to make a motion, just want to discuss it. I'm a little uneasy after having read Ginger's letter about being on the same page with us, having her, she resigned because she wasn't on the same page with us. And so I'm just uneasy, her having that spot on EDC, making decisions for the future. She doesn't feel like she's on the same page with us.
Well, that's my point is that you're responsible for anybody's on the commission's actions. So you as a council are. So if you don't feel comfortable with them, it's your prerogative to place them. I know there was a lot of discussion during the election that it just seemed to be like it was a whole nother council meeting instead of a.
And as I've had conversations with folks in town, the other thing, so what I've found out is that there's 7 spots on there. 3 of them run off September this year, 4 of them or 4 September this year, the other 3 are next year. So there's 7 spots on there, and the ex officio is the mayor, city manager, and
Would be a council.
Should be a council.
well, that's not an ex officio. Chamber.
The president of the chamber is.
President of the chamber. And just personally, as I've had some of these conversations with people, this is money that comes in from local business owners, it comes through taxes through them. And I'd love to see everybody on that thing eventually be people that put into that pot. To me, it's like having people at the church decide where the money's going, but they don't give. And so I'd love to see it, not all at once, but really to not just, I'm friends with Ginger. She's in my ward. That's good, but I'm uneasy with somebody on that committee making decisions when they state that they're not on the same page with us. I have had conversations with both. I didn't talk to Jack Kelso, but Jack Kelso is willing to be in a spot, and Randy Watts also willing to be in a spot, both business owners in town that are involved in the money that goes into that pot.
Oh, I think you've all
Randy
had
Watts,
members
Jack
that want to be, but we're gonna have
Kevin
to.
Goodell said also he would be interested in being on that.
Kevin used to be a member.
Yes.
You said how many come up in September?
There's 4 spots open in September.
Who comes up?
Yeah. You open it up. Dwayne Smith, September 24, Ginger Clevenger, September 24, Frankie Scott, September 24, Camilla Green, September 24. And then the 2025 spots are Sherry Heskey, and Claire Guston, and Alfonso Venegas.
And I know a few of you have expressed it. Don't want to be the representative on the council on there, so it'll be another deal we'll have to go through. Because whoever represents EDC on that also has to be part of the lake board.
So my thoughts are to replace the one spot tonight and then start working on a list of three. Or, figure out who we want for September, either change or to stay. We don't need to do that tonight.
I would recommend you table it until you have whatever you're gonna replace.
Let's say we need to figure out who to replace with first. We need to agree on who to replace with before we replace.
Cause I'm sure all of you have recommendations. We'll have a whole lot more names than we'll have spots.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I move we table, any position change on EDC until we have a list of names to discuss.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have several seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Full list till we have which spots we're gonna replace and with who.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn
Second.
and a second. All in favor? Anybody opposed? There are none.
I left you a piece of paper on